What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, life stuff. We were going to make today's video about purple sad girls, but that feels like a cop-out video topic because this sort of woman is the female version of the Guts profile picture, the statue profile picture, a strategy of coming off like you have an identity in these women's cases by making themselves look pretty and burdened by something beyond words, alternative, and then proceeding to say any number of canned consumer grade fake edge. You don't have a soul, but you can look like you have one, and because enough other people are doing this, and also because your takes or your opinions on things are so inoffensive, you are unlikely ever to be called on it. And we could have stretched that out to 8 to 10 minutes, depending. Need only 8. Well, we don't even do mid-roll ads on these videos. What am I talking about? Anyway, we could have copped out. Because in the last week or two, there has been nothing in my brain. Nothing worth talking about, at least. But maybe we will freestyle on this video. I was feeling a little sick earlier, probably because I ate wet chicken nuggets from a grocery store, but we're feeling better now. At an hour of the night, feeling okay is completely pointless. I think I've had nothing to talk about because there have been no significant changes in anything. Still working the same job, still hate people, feeling like I'm waiting on the next thing to happen. Trying to make something happen. I am, with help, learning about trading. Maybe we'll go through a trader arc. But that's in the very beginning stages of learning. And for me, learning the first bit of anything is the most difficult. It takes the longest. So we're probably going to be here for a while. And I don't know enough to say anything about anything yet. Or to have any kind of story beats to go with yet. So while learning trading has taken my primary focus slot, it's not acting as a focus because I don't know enough to focus on it yet. And even once I'm in it, I don't know if it'll be something worth talking about, which I distinguish from can talk about. There are tons of things you can talk about, but when it comes to videos, for me, if I have to go to can talk about, then we're lacking that urgency that comes with stumbling into something you're interested in and can decipher, and for as long as it lasts, you feel like you need to decipher. I was working on sigils earlier. I could go through my sigil process, but that doesn't feel important. Okay, here's how my life looks to me as I live it. It is a long road, but you are an archaeologist, and the road isn't revealed. It's covered up by all kinds of shit. And I feel like I'm progressing in life when I've gotten a whiff of where the next stretch of road is, and I can start clearing it off and examining it and learning where we're headed, what's coming next. For me, life is not a road you walk, it is a road you find or decipher. And even if you're doing things day to day, not just living, not just subsisting, but doing new things, if it doesn't feel like it's connected to this road you're walking, then it doesn't feel like anything is happening, even if things are happening. I finished Outer Dark by Cormac McCarthy. And even if he is this great American literature guy, compared to people like Hemingway, compared to people like Faulkner, McCarthy feels like a one-trick pony. I've read only 3 of his books so far, but I get the feeling the rest of them, the vibe you'll get from them, are Americans are hostile and not as great as they are presented to be or as they think themselves to be, although they have some kernels of good in them. The rural South and West are spooky, and it's hard to relax. You need to keep your head on a swivel because people are crazy and bad, and ain't that just a crying shame? Cormac McCarthy as a writer feels like the equivalent of comedians like Dat Phan, who was popular a while ago. Dat Phan got famous because he did a Vietnamese mother impression, and that was what he did. People loved him for it. He became very successful off that, but holy shit, is every book going to have a murdering, spooky, monologuing pursuer guy? And you read it because as an American, you feel like you need to. Yes, every single thing in Cormac McCarthy's books are true, and yes, there will always be a scary, spooky, monologuing pursuer guy, especially in real life. But maybe this is perfect. Maybe this happened for a reason. Cormac McCarthy's Cormac McCarthy's catalog feels the way I feel when I haven't archaeologized the next segment in my road. Sometimes you get reinvigorated, and you love rehashing segments of the road you've already walked. But the reason you get excited about uncovering the next stretch of road is you feel like if you can just learn about this next step or this aspect of life you'd never considered before, but there's so much in there, maybe you'll find an answer in there, one answer. And that's another thing you do in life, is you walk around collecting answers or reasonable theories to some questions so you can use them to get the things you want in life. At least that's the way I look at it. The reason you are learning about anything is so you can apply it and get the things you don't have. And sometimes you pass a stretch of road without finding the answer, or the right answer. That's a reason to rehash. Or sometimes an answer is just so good, you gotta do it again. But that's not always the case. And I think I'm anxious when I don't even have a hint of what the next stretch of road is supposed to be. Because up to this point, it feels almost automatic, discovering the next thing. Now, it's manual, and it's not an issue of motivation to go out there and look. It's a matter of you make your living panning for gold, and now you're beginning to suspect it's all golded out. Because as I mentioned, this trading thing, I do feel like this is the next step, this is the next thing, but I'm not burning with passion over it. I think trading is something I need to practice, that I can develop some ability with, and I'm hoping either trading will become that burning thing for me once I understand it enough to start dissecting it on my own, or hopefully I'll unlock the next thing via trading. Because life is weird in that way. You never know when and where you will stumble into the next thing. Example, the ASPD arc. I had no idea that was going to be that substantial. That just happened. Whereas something like typology, which I used to have a burning passion for, that didn't just happen, but it also smelled like the direction I needed to go in. And it was. For a long time it was. Not anymore, because it didn't contain the answers I wanted. It contained some useful tools, but it wasn't the witchcraft I thought it was, or for years originally thought it would be, and then for years was hoping if I just learned enough, it would be, and it's not. In fact, and maybe we'll talk about it here, but maybe we will make a milking typology video for the mid-roll ads. You stay out of it for a while, and you get a better perspective on what typology does for you. Because I'm finding typology is a use it or lose it thing. Because typology, you need to stay spec'd into it for it to function at its highest level. But, well, one, its highest level doesn't get you what you want. And two, when you are, it's like devoting yourself to a god in Skyrim mods or in Path of Acra or something. Once you're devoted, there's no, or you'll have a very hard time getting outside it. Typology is like having a pet bear. If you don't have a need or a reason to have a bear, then it's not doing you a lot of good. But it is costing you a lot because you got to keep the damn thing fed. And you can't take your eyes off it because if you do, it'll eat you. What you keep from typology is very limited. And for me, that's been an awareness of FE and FI. That's the main thing. If I had to give someone a crash course in typology, that would be what I would teach them anyway. But for me, that's what's stuck. Is a person FE or FI, and then how do you deal with them accordingly? Everything else, which is fascinating too, by the way, realizing you need to sit down and work actively to type someone where in the past it would have come naturally. Which you would do because having access to all those other functions lets you strategize around them a little bit better, but not so much, I guess, you'll remember it crystal clear the way you will with FE and FI, because that one's the most important. And this is another thing about the research bug, the drive. You can't, well, you can go out and study anything, but unless you know it has to do, or the topic has to do with what your life needs, or what you believe will take you to this next level so you can get the things you want, forcing yourself to study something feels so pointless. It's not, because all information is useful, but when you don't believe it's useful, one, it probably won't be all that useful, and two, you aren't getting your brain chemical rewards. And I think the pattern in these proper next step stretches of the road or topics is how do you make yourself safer or your life more secure, and how do you find and deal with partners you are attracted to? How do you, no bullshit, build a better castle, and how do you find and deal with women you want? Those are the two themes I've found to be consistent. And I know people love these dumb cliche ideas that there are other things to concern yourself with or greater things to concern yourself with, but that's bullshit. The trends, the two big trends, give me the nicest spear and shield so I can fuck with people, or I can protect myself from being fucked with, or if you want to talk about these greater things, the idea that you can't be fucked with, and then also Al Pacino, great ass. Those are the two big concerns. And even divine purpose, which I believe in. It's a weird thing because sometimes it's totally in the background. Sometimes it's directly in your face, but even when it is in your face, it doesn't feel like a major thing. It's more like something you do because you're supposed to do. We've gone on about this too many times. That one's probably, if we buy into all the cosmic shit we buy into, that one is probably the biggest concern, but not for you. Not even in your own life. You won't be the one benefiting from any of this or understanding any of it. Your concerns are having what you want and feeling okay, with the divinity as this side obligation. And I think about what'll happen if, in the long term, between career and trading, if we develop any aptitude for it, or have any aptitude, develop any skill, what do you spend your money on? Because when I think about it, everything I would have spent money on in the past to experience life, meet people, enjoy life, I don't believe in any of those things anymore. It feels like we are independent Sith maxing. All the money would go into anything and everything that would compound power, so you are less easy to fuck with. And then any other money would go into hastening research. And there would be 3 primary topics being researched. Power, researching power to help you understand how not to get fucked with. Particular sorts of women, where they are and how to deal with them, because of course, even in this hypothetical situation in which you are successful enough to have your own little research institute, you still haven't found the woman you wanted. Probably because, as with the other shit you no longer believe in, maybe this is something you no longer believe in either, but this is not something you can brush off. And then the third topic would be experimenting with the supernatural. Like trying to catch fog in your hands, but what else can you do? It's weird realizing very little satisfies. I played Steins Gate recently, and I enjoyed that. I got the Carice ending. Not the true ending, but I don't feel like going back and getting it, so we'll have to do that at some point. But I enjoyed the game the way you enjoy a bad nut. Although you are caught up in this, and you won't stop until you're finished, you recognize there is a vacancy here, and once you blow your load, that's done. And it sucks ass because that's the only thing in a while that has held my attention in that way. But the thing about media holding your attention, or one of the reasons media for a long time now has rarely felt like anything super fulfilling, is even if it feels good, which a lot of the time it doesn't, this is still a substitute. But then you look at life and you imagine having the resources to do whatever you want, and it would still feel like anything you could get would be a substitute. Or there is just some hole that might forever, probably not. Odds are good we'll change the way we feel about everything tomorrow. But there's this gnawing fear of this hole that will go unfilled, and as long as it goes unfilled, you'll never feel at peace. Which is funny because that's what we preach. We already know that. We already know you will never feel contentment. That's part of what life is. And that's where divine purpose sneaks back in. One of the things I was thinking about the other day was, well, it's not even a theory. You are, in fact, guided around by your dissatisfaction. But on the divine level, I was thinking about the way maybe if we're tools in this game we don't understand, then maybe we are guided mostly by dissatisfaction. If you are super dissatisfied or your satisfaction comes from difficult and select areas, then maybe you have a particular specific job you need to be doing, which maybe might make you feel good, but probably it doesn't, because you won't be the one benefiting from your divine purpose. That's the shit of all this. You can take pleasure in the fact you need to do more work for the same result or less than everybody else. I don't know, but I think we'll cut it here. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.